Good morning, world. Hello, everybody out there. How you guys doing? Paul Trani here in the house in beautiful San Francisco. Welcome, everyone. Onur, Hafida, Tobias, welcome. Felicia, Lucia. Anyways, welcome, everybody. I might not be able to pronounce your name correctly. I apologize, but let me know where you're from. I'm Paul Trani, Evangelist for Adobe, and what we're going to be doing this week, we have a really fun week planned. Essentially what we have is Adobe XD happening this week. And really it's all about UX and UI design. So we're going to spend this first hour basically covering Adobe XD, making you an expert in it. Why not in an hour? Because we could do that. Life doesn't have to be complex, you know? Oh, is that? Sorry. Anyways, so we're going to do this for the first hour. It's getting started with Adobe XD, and then for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have some fantastic live streamers and UX, UI designers as well joining us. So this is your head start into Adobe XD, so you can do your own UX and UI. So welcome from Dubai. Oh, awesome. Chandra, where are you from? Folkert, always curious. Berlin in the house, good to see. So let's talk about the schedule. You have me for an hour today, but this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have Claude coming in at 9 a.m. with Claude Pichet, with Michael Shays, Mark Risen as well. Basically, we've had him before. We have Jenny and then Peter as well from 11. Basically, most of the day, we have some cool UX and UI designers. Honestly, some of our favorites, I have to say. I love Claude. Claude's awesome. So it's going to be a fun time. So this is your head start into the week. So I'm going to dive into this. Enough of my talking head. Right. Let me just kind of, oh good, looks like that's pretty good. Let me just kind of minimize that. Let me just kind of show some of their work real fast. We'll switch to my screen. So again, Claude's going to be with us. If that works for you, Folkert and me here and Tom, Claude Pichet, you can see some of his work. Yeah, he's good. He knows what he's doing. And he's living in sunny San Diego, and he'll probably give you a quiz on where he's from, and you'll probably never guess. Jenny's a senior product designer at Adobe New York, and she's going to be with us here in San Francisco. And then we have guests all day, so essentially that's kind of what it comes down to. You could actually just check out the schedule. This is the easiest thing to do because I wanted to bring up Peter right here. So we have Peter from 1 to 3 p.m. Peter Del Tondo. It's going to be his first time with us. So that's what's happening. So much talking. Tom, how are you today, my friend? So again, 9 a.m. today, beautiful San Francisco. I want to give you a crash course in Adobe XD, if that works for you. Right? Does that work? Does that work for you, Mitch and Tom and Miriam? Let's do it. Good morning. Yes, there's going to be contests. Guess what? I might sneak some info. I might give you a little bit of intel this morning that I may or may not be able to. Like, I don't know. I didn't get it cleared, but it's not like Michael Shays is watching or anything. I'm just kidding. But I will. This is really your head start into Adobe XD, which is really fun. So essentially Adobe XD right here, we're actually going to have an update coming to it very soon. I actually think within the next 24 hours. Don't quote me on that. Yes, thank you so much for that, Michael Shays. It will be at 3 p.m. and not at 1 p.m. Ends at 3 p.m. But we're going to do a deep dive, sort of a beginner's look at XD, okay? And really kind of dive into some of the specifics as the hour goes on. But we have 3 contests going on this week, so pay attention this hour. You can enter a contest Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. XD socks, I wish! Not right now. We'll talk about prizes later. A good idea. A good idea. Claire from France, welcome. Good evening to you. Always socks. But it's really cool. I could actually kind of click through a number of projects, by the way. Quite a few that actually I already have opened. But essentially, you know, here's a project. Again, this is what I like about XD. There's 1,500 artboards right in here. I can pinch and zoom in on this and see these different screens, but you can literally sort of make as many screens as you want in Adobe XD, like those 1,500 artboards. If you ever tried opening up 1,500 of anything, it's a horrible idea. Don't do it. Let's go on from there. We can take a look at, you know, say for instance, a shopping platform. I'm just gonna preview a couple files real fast. And then we'll dive into this. Feel free to ask questions, Tom. Thank you for asking that question. How do I organize my doc? You're probably wondering about these spaces, by the way. This is a command line. You can do a command line terminal, basically command line that will essentially give you these spaces. You know, if you actually just do a search for it on the interwebs, you'll find out how to do that. But that's kind of how I have an organized web, all that good stuff, all the Adobe stuff, if you will. And of course XD next to Dreamweaver, because just like with Dreamweaver, we can sort of prototype a website if we want to in XD. And that's what I like about this project, is this has everything from a kiosk to a website to a tablet to mobile to app, on down the line into the future. All right, do you need an adapter to do the live preview? Good question, Daniel. We could actually do that right now with this project as I connect. Essentially, you could, if you're on a Mac, you could just basically be on the same wireless network and connect. But you do need the Adobe XD app right over here. So this is what you're talking about, live preview. I assume when you say adapter, you mean mobile. But right over here, it says download this app, and then you can connect by USB, typically is how you do it. But you could do wireless if you're on the same network. That should work just fine too. All right. I love Unur brings up a great point. Will there be a fixed lower menu in the future? You could bet we're working on that. Okay, so can you have a fixed header or a fixed footer? That's something we're very well aware of. In fact, if you look in XD, you can go to, say, provide feedback, because that's something you probably want to be like, hey, where's this at? Do you know about this? You can go in here. Feature requests, that's probably one of the top feature requests, but I'm going to dive into this. Oh, look at this at the top. Fixed elements, that's exactly what you're talking about, has the most votes. And if I dove into this, you'd see that a lot of people on the XD team actually make these comments. So thank you so much. Good question as well. So we're actively working on that, and yeah. So I think Danielle is actually part of the XD team, and she's going to be with us Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 a.m. I don't know if she knows the status, but that's the thing, is to ask Danielle. And just to remind you of the schedule real fast, yes. 9 a.m. Claude, fantastic guy, so much fun, 3 fantastic people. 11 a.m. with Jenny and Danielle, both Adobe employees. That's how you get your intel, and Peter from 1 to 3 with Michael Jarrett. So that's the schedule. Does that work for you? Onur, right on. Let's dive into this now. Enough chit chat. I've done that for about 10 minutes. We know what we can make. We know about the speed of XD. And I'm just going to give you a quick preview of what I'm going to make this morning. Okay, so just so you know, you can actually find videos of this process. I should be going live tomorrow on the landing page for Adobe XD. But this is basically what I'm going to put together. It's not only how to design, but also just do some simple prototyping, all within 45 minutes. That's all the time it takes. And by the way, this is going to set you up to increase your odds of winning a contest this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All right. Let's dive into this. So this is basically what I'm going to be designing from scratch. We can preview it. It's pretty straightforward. We kind of click through. We go full screen, right? We can see how this looks, scrolling through this content, eventually pinning some of this, clicking on sort of this Tokyo Tower, which happens to be right here, finding out more details about it. It's pretty straightforward. But again, if I made this overly complex, I'd be failing you, and I don't want to do that. All right, let's dive into this. Gus is in the house. At least he's in chat. He's not in the room, my friend. I missed Mitch, and I missed Gus, and Francisco, and Michael all last week for the past 2 weeks. And yeah, good times. So if you couldn't tell, I'm going to start out with a simple iPhone app is what I'm essentially going to make. I could always change this later. Here's my different sizes. If you don't notice, there's this little drop down, boop, right there. So you can change this to, say, iPhone X if you want to, or any other type. Okay, so it's that little flyout menu right there. Also, for beginners, I encourage you to explore the basics with this beginner tutorial. Is a good place to start as well. But again, since you have me, and I at least fake like I know what I'm doing sometimes. Just kidding. I actually have plenty of content and courses out there, even on like lynda.com. I have a couple. Creating a mobile app, creating a website in Adobe XD, in case you're curious. So this is what I'm creating, an iPhone splash screen, as I'm pointing out right up here. Zoop. You like that zoom? I can change the fill to any color that I want. I might shift it to a nice blue. And also going beyond that, it's kind of hidden, this little drop down. Again, depending on the item selected, I can change its color. So change it to a linear gradient, as you can see right here. Okay, I can add maybe a brighter element in the center, and you can see how I can adjust that there and move it here. But I can go beyond that and actually move it right on the object. And not only that, this is what I love, like, coming over here and selecting that and having it come in at an angle like that. Okay, so that's potentially what I might want to do. And going beyond that, this is new as well. Anthony, I don't know if you know about this, but being able to change this to radial gradient as well. And sure enough, I get that. And if I just hit the delete key, I can get rid of any one of those color stops and give it a nice burst. Glorious. Publishing design specs. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And I think there's already been some conversations about publishing. All right. But essentially publishing for design specs, if you click up here, publish design specs, says beta, which means we're actively not only working on this, but a lot of things. But good call. So I'm going to throw together an app. I'm going to start drawing, do a couple different things. What if I wanted to make a map icon, Francisco? I'm going to talk to Francisco since he's right here. I'm like looking right at you, just past the chat, but I can go ahead and draw out just like I could anything else in any other app, whether it's Illustrator or Photoshop. I can, make a square, and I can go beyond that and maybe turn this square into a circle, or hold down the Alt key and maybe drag out one point, maybe rotate it, boop, and then we have our fun map icon. Cool. Alexander, does that work for you? Where's my coffee? Let's kick it in. Let's kick it into gear. I'm going to go beyond that because I could also just make that same map icon maybe with a circle. Check this out. Any shape that I draw, I actually get the Bezier points for it. Okay? So I can just double click on this and oh look, now I have access to these little Bezier points. Look at that. Oh, so I could kind of make a map icon with a circle, okay? Or the little pin is what I'm talking about. It's kind of bringing this down. Sure, I can select it. I can manipulate this all I want. Or I can just double click on it. Pop up. There we go. And we have our map icon. And I can kind of decide which one. They're actually slightly different. I don't know which one you like, Miriam or Francisco. These are they're a little different. I'm kind of digging this one. You like the right one? Okay, Francisco likes the right one. Miriam, hopefully that works for you. This one right here? Yes. All right, we have this one selected. Miriam, if that... Ooh, Miriam likes the first one, though. Oh, great. Now we got a debate, and we'll probably talk about this for 45 minutes. The second one, I agree. Let's go with the second one. Let's go beyond that, because what I want to do is I want to, punch a hole in this. This is what I love, by the way. Illustrator can't even do this. Mitch, are you listening to me, Mitch? check this out. I'm getting all hyperactive. The coffee's kicking in. But sure, I can have another circle, right? And put this on top, and I want to kind of punch a hole in it. With those two selected, okay, they're both selected, I can go right up here, zoop, right up here on the top. And sure enough, it's this Boolean operation, subtract, click, and yes, it does punch a hole in it, which is great. But this is what I love about this, is I can go in here and I still have access to all of that math, all that data. So if I double click, oh, guess what? I can still move that sphere and I can make sure it's aligned and I can move it up, right? So when you do these Boolean operations right up here, keep in mind that, essentially you're not deleting data that you can no longer get back. It's straight up coffee, and it's not even like that big of a coffee. You guys are lucky I didn't go to Phil's this morning. I'd get this done in like 15 minutes. I did not have time. Here's my map icon. Perfect. I'd say that looks pretty good. Let's remove the border. Let's add some type. Okay, so again, just drawing with basic shapes. Let's actually, since I'm still dealing with lines and basic shapes, we could use the pen tool. We see it right over here. Okay. So I can start to sort of draw out and just doing a click and drag. It works exactly as I think it would work, clicking right there, and then typically I'll hit escape and then I'll change the color. If you want it to be more complex, I don't know what to tell you. This is something new that we've added, by the way, Michael. Michael Crabtree's in the house. Michael, good to see you, buddy. Nice to see you in chat, my friend. Fantastic. And by the way, if you are joining us on YouTube, it's good to have you here. Kind of keep an eye on that chat as well. But technically, we're actually on behance.net/live is the chat we're monitoring. We can talk about UI trends. By the way, Martin, I actually want to give away some free resources today as well. We have some awesome UI kits available for you that's going to make your life so much easier. So Darren, Julia, hopefully that works for you as far away as Austria. This is a new thing that I wanted to point out is the stroke of any line can be the inner stroke, outer stroke, or centered. Okay, so that's also a new feature. So if you think you know XD, you might not have been aware of that. Hopefully what I hope is coming next, Michael and Bertold, is rounding the caps and rounding corners. So hope to see that because I, in general, like that in Illustrator. So just kind of tweaking this a little bit. Zoop, zoop. Make it smooth. Make it smooth. All right, it's not bad. Juan Pablo's in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Juan Pablo, don't be disappointed. You know, we're having our 3-day stream. It starts actually tomorrow. And this is basically your day to, your time to get ahead before that 3-day stream starts. Because you're going to know the fundamentals of XD, which I'm reviewing right now. Okay, so diving into this a little more, I can add some type. I don't know if this line is working. Maybe I'll just make it a little bit more, transparent. But let's add some type in here. Make up the name of an app. This is the hot thing to do with the names of apps and things, is like remove all the vowels. Okay, but I'm just typing this in as you'd expect. I'm gonna actually center that text and move it over. This is what's unique about XD. As I take a look at this little, let me zoom in on that. This little dot right here, this control point will allow me to increase or decrease the size of that text, which I love. I love doing things visually. But also, if I go right up here, I could also use my arrow keys, right? Just using arrow up and arrow down. Sprackful, you are late. Not to worry, this is being recorded. I'm just giving you guys a head start for this week because we have a UX, UI design live stream this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on behance.net/live. So if you're joining me on YouTube, Join us on Behance/live with Claude. Fantastic guy with a cool accent. Jenny. And that's where you get your inside intel, and then Peter Del Tondo from 1 to 3. So that's what's happening. This is your what do you call this? This is like your intro? Yeah, your intro. Your intro? The most basic word. You mean intro, Paul? This is your introduction to XD, but this is sort of like your way to get ahead, basically. This is almost like extra credit, a way to get a jump on everyone. But I'm kind of cycling through all these fonts. That's kind of cool. Help me out. That's kind of not bad. This is where I'd spend easily. Ooh, this is a nice one. This is the one I want. I don't know. I don't think this is a Typekit font, but as a Creative Cloud member, you have access to Typekit. Raman from India. Welcome, my friend. It's good to have you here. I want to know if it is your first time joining us. Would love to hear you say a few words. Just get those fingers going and say, hi, I'm new. Would love to welcome you. That'd be awesome. Okay. Awesome. So, again, these could be Typekit fonts. That's the font I'm picking. I love it because it's rounded. Makes it easy to work with. And it just looks nice. Let's move on. Let's go ahead and duplicate this screen, right? Selecting this, we could copy a screen because maybe I want to make the secondary screen. I could copy it. And then I can go to Edit, Paste. Boom. Mitch has jokes because he's saying lobster, what is greater than anything else? Oh, yeah. Mihir, welcome, my friend, is new. Good to see you here, my friend. And, yeah, welcome. Welcome. Let me I have to try to refresh this. Algeria in the house. Ishak, Jacob, I'm wondering if it's your first time here. Let me know. Oh, Lori, I feel sorry for you if you took an all-day course from me at Adobe Max. I am a lot of energy. I just get really excited about things, right? We can make this second screen menu. And again, I'm just zooming in on this. MENU, like that. There we are. I could maybe eliminate some of this content, or this could be my main screen, but now I have two. Here's another way to do things. It's just Command D. Bam. Bam, 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 and many times as I want, right? I'm undoing that too because I did it too many times. This is just like any other object, right? It's just like any other object. And then I could start to add more to it. Colin Brooks, how you doing, my friend? That's a cool name. I wish my name was Cullen. It's such a cool, I don't know where that name comes from, but I like the name Cullen. All right, Colin. Let's take it to the next level. I'm first going to save this file to my desktop. We're going to call it EXPLORE. Explore. Ooh, Simon Pro Design is from Medellin, Colombia. I've been to Medellin. Gotta love Colombia. Love Colombia. Like, who doesn't? Medellin's like so popular. What a great place. So cool. Contest today. We're not going to have any giveaways. Those are for tomorrow. But what you're going to learn today are all the tips you need to know to set you up for success this whole week. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's dive into this. Getting into other graphics, okay? Because I really need to jazz this up. Right? We have Francisco here. He's like, he demands it. He's like, Paul, can you just make it better? Can you just make it look better? I hear you, my friend. Because it's very flat and just almost too graphical. Can we bring in some bitmap images? Sure enough, we can. We can bring in like this night scene and drop in this night. This looks pretty cool. This could work. I like this. You know what? I'm gonna switch this up a little bit. Zoop. Move this up. So I just dragged and dropped it in, right? Even for this background, by the way, I want to sample this change this background to match that graphic. Sure enough, we could sample colors exactly as you'd expect. Clicking right there, let's boop. Ooh. Let's remove that solid color. There we are. Something like that. That's more along the lines of what I want. I think that looks better. Hopefully Francisco's happy. Colin, I hope you're happy. Ishak, we got the thumbs up from Francisco. Pablo. Even Pablo is a cool name. All right. Ashish, good to have you here. Welcome. Again, that's what I did is I just dragged and I dropped in an image. It doesn't have to be complex. I'm using shortcut keys. All those shortcut keys that you use in Illustrator and Photoshop, Command plus minus, zoom in, zoom out, Command 0. I probably need to slow down because again, this is an introduction to Adobe XD. I have some coffee, I get excited, and I start moving really fast. Apologize if that's the case there. Dio Gratias. Good to have you here. Curious where you're from. Such a unique name. Welcome. Yes, Cullen. Just the color sample, by the way. What I am looking for, by the way, is like, eventually we need to have that as a shortcut key, to be honest with you, because I want to be able to sample colors like on the fly. But I'm already starting to develop a style here, okay? And on that note, Cullen, since we've sampled this color, I want to keep it, right? I want to keep this color. Maybe I even want to keep this burst right here. Well, I can do that right in here, right over here. Two ways to do this. You ready for this? You ready for this? Right over here, I can add it right here. Click, and I can add that blue. Okay, and keep in mind, this is also a new thing that we've added because people ask about this if you're doing any sort of design, if you have HSB. So you have hex, RGB, and HSB. I think HSB is new to the lineup. But I've just added that, of course, as you'd expect it. But I'd even go beyond that, because check this out. Like, sure, I could use that, sample it over here. In fact, can I do it with gradients? No, you can't do it with gradients here. So this is what I suggest you do. You ready for this? Colin, we're about to dive. I'll stare. You ready for this? From Zimbabwe, as far away. Check this out. Opening up your assets panel. This is your best friend right here. Looks like two cells dividing. I don't know how this means assets, but it does. They needed an icon that wasn't taken. Like, where does this come from? Apparently that means assets. Right over here, colors, perfect, right? So look at this. This is the color that I have selected. I'm gonna add that color. Boop, there it is. There's my dark blue. What about this gradient? Let's add that. Boop, zip. Wait for it. I can't even wait for it. Good Lord. I should be, why am I losing my mind? This is interesting. Let me just see if linear. There we go. So I've just added this gradient. And this is what I wanted to point out is for the assets panel, you can add colors, character styles, and symbols. Since I've made two screens, Lori, is that how I say it? Diogatras from Tanzania, since I've added two screens and I start reusing colors, I want to create this assets library, okay, of colors, of character styles, of symbols that I can then reuse. Okay, so just like I've done here, I have this nice gradient, I have that color, I can duplicate this a couple times as I start to dive into this. Guess what? I decide that color isn't quite working. I can right click, edit. Right, and here's my gradient. And I can shift this from more of a blue to maybe a purple. And you can see it changes everywhere. So you're dealing with global colors, global character styles as I add a character style. Yeah, Colin, assets panel. Yes, new tips. I want... well, Illustrator has this now by default. When you add a swatch, it automatically checks the global colors checkbox. But this is honestly something Photoshop doesn't even have. No offense to Photoshop. Ooh, maybe Nicholas, would you like an imprintable, shareable style guide from assets? Also a good idea. All right, so let's move on. So have this. Let's make some more stuff. Yeah, Christian. Same thing for character styles, by the way, as I dive into this. Character styles and symbols, because eventually, even for this graphic, I might want to reuse it. Click, add it in there. On and on we go. Let me show you, Sahari. How can you duplicate? Command D, duplicate. But that brings up a good point. You ready for this, Sahari? This is what happens. You're going to create a list of, say, places. Like I might have a box that has, and some text in it. Because since you said duplicating, we're going to have a place. That's cool, right? That I rotate, which you could also do from that little point. Here's a title. Let me just get this set up. This is typically what people will do. Maybe it has some sort of icon right here, and you'll get that aligned, and then you'll duplicate it because you said, hey, Paul said duplicate. Command D. I duplicated it, right? And this is what you'll start to do, right? You're like, okay, I'll start to do that. And then you're like, oh no, this text needs to be smaller, or you need to do some adjustments. You have to do that across all these instances. And this is what makes your life just kind of boring, let's be honest. I'm sure other parts of your life are really exciting, but it's not this part, which is just duplicating and changing. Instead, what do you want to do? You want to eliminate those. You want to select these items, maybe get this aligned just right. You ready for this? Let me zoom in on this. Selecting these 3 elements. Oh, by the way, you can also do an Alt-Shift-Drag will also duplicate. But with these 3 selected, since I want them to repeat in a grid fashion, I don't know. Maybe if you could just select Repeat Grid. Okay. Click Repeat Grid. And now, now I can drag this down, and you can see that it's repeating all of those elements. Whatever I had selected, it turned it into a repeat grid. Huge time saver. You want to get rid of that spacing, right? The margins between each. You can take that down to 0, right? Take that up. Oh, guess what? You had that weird border there. Can you fix it? Sure enough, if I turn off that border, it's going to turn it off for all of them. So they're unified in style, by the way, as I double click. They're unified in style, but the content can be different. So this could be another place that is cool, right? Christian, at what point is it best to ungroup the grid? So you can break apart or ungroup the grid anytime you want to break the style, okay? Because the style is going to be consistent. The content can be unique. When you need to break that style, that's typically when you want to do it. Thank you, Madhavan. Again, this is your introduction to Adobe XD. And if this is your first time seeing the repeat grid, I'd love to hear so. I'd love to hear if that's the case. Repeat grid, Alistair, hand clap. Thank you. Awesome. Oh, Alistair, your Android developer, watching these live streams help you improve your design skills. Good to hear. Fantastic. And I haven't even gotten into the design because this needs more help, doesn't it? Go ahead, just tell me. It needs more help. I know it does, right? Again, I can try different things. Maybe I need to make this darker. I don't know. What would I do here from a design standpoint, Christian? What would you do? Like maybe replace this just box with an image, right? So that's what I would do. I'd go out to my desktop, go into the places here. This is basically a list of places because our app, just to set it up a little bit more, is about exploring what's around you. And from here, I'm just going to grab an image. Let's grab this brownstone image and drop it right there. Okay, now you can see it's propagated all the way down. And I can take this and maybe, let's bring this to the front. Make this semi-transparent. That's kind of what I'm going for. Something maybe like that is kind of what I'm thinking. Let's go beyond this, by the way. Do a couple more things. Give me 1 second. We are designing now. We're aligning content. We could see it's the same image all the way down. Can we help that? Of course we can. I'm going to select all these images, dropping them in, and now they're going to propagate down the repeat grid for all of those elements. And that's more along the lines of what I want. Cool. Can you, ooh, Felicia, I think I just answered your question. Can you put separate images? Because you noticed right away, you're like, hey, Paul, that needs to have separate images. Sure enough, separate images. And I was able to adjust the transparency of this because I'm thinking for some images, maybe this needs to be brighter or be darker, but I can just kind of adjust the brightness there. Another thing I do with this text, by the way, is give it a shadow. So there are certain effects that you can do. Ooh, I'm going to take it to the next level because I love this, by the way. Oh, maybe I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a quick content screen. You ready for this? This is another thing I do. You ready for this? Alistair and Fenris and Tanvir and everyone. This is what I typically do. It's like, I know this is going to link to another screen. So this is really going to be my content screen. I'll jump in here. I'll select these different elements, right? So this, this, and this. Copy it. Go right here. Paste it in. That might be a case for when you want to break it apart, but either way, this works quite well. Move that over. Oop. I want to show you this real fast because really I just needed this image. All right, let's make this nice big image. Let's put this down here and put that there. And I'm thinking, okay, Tim, Yash, you know, maybe you like this. Adjusting this transparency is okay. I think that's all right, but we can make it even more unique. And this is kind of like an iOS thing, but I actually want to blur out the background instead of having it crisp with detail. I want to give it a background blur. Clicking there, background blur, what does it do? Allows me to, let's crank this up, blur out the background. See, sharp, blurry. We want it darker, right? Isn't that nice? It gets rid of a lot of that detail, so whatever text I put here is going to be easier to read. So I can click right here. This is typically actually what you do. You'd be like, put text here. This is my text that will be blah, 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 blah. Right? You're like, oh no, I need that to kind of wrap. It needs to be body copy, right? It needs to be area text instead of point text. Right? Instead of putting all these hard returns, blah, 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 you can change from point text to area text. So selecting this right over here, here's the point text. Right next to it is area text. When I click there, oh, thank you very much. It gives you the box, and then you can adjust accordingly. So that's typically what I do. Maybe I'll jump out to, I don't know, what do you want? Hipster Ipsum? Hipster Ipsum. And again, we have about 20 minutes. Ooh, can you add, Vishwesh asked a question about the repeat grid. You are able to add icons or whatever else later on. I'm going to do that for you. But first, let me finish this Hipster Ipsum part. So I just need some, do you guys know about this? There's like Samuel L. Jackson Ipsum. I like Hipster Ipsum. But this is basically lorem ipsum, just body, just Greeking as it's sometimes called. It's hilarious, Francisco. This is Hipster Ipsum. It's like porkberry, pickled tacos, coloring book, YOLO, $4 toast ramps. This is hilarious. It entertains. Isn't that kind of funny? It's kind of entertaining. I think there's a Samuel L. Jackson one, but I think there's like a lot more cussing with that one. So dropping that in and manipulating it accordingly. So I'll still need some work. Let me just change this background. Bam. Color. There we go. Let's increase the size of this. Okay. Let me dive into what someone asked a second ago. First of all, the size of your image, that's a good point. Like, what size are you working at? I try to work at like the largest size I can. Let's keep in mind the size of this this particular artboard or screen is 375 by 667. It gets to be important when you start to export out your content, right? So if I select everything and export all my selected content, just keep in mind, like if you're going to do this for iOS, it's designed at like actual size. You could design it maybe at 2 times the size and then it will size it down. But it'll export it out as sort of larger resolutions for high res, for high DPI devices. So keep that in mind, right? In general, work in vector if you could. Cool. All right, so let's move on. So, oh yeah, this is what I want to do real fast. Let me show you 2 things. You ready for this? Kevin, anybody still use Photoshop for web app design? How do you deal with clients if they expect or want editable PSD files? XD versus Photoshop. Oh yeah. I mean, the short of it is like, I don't know. Like, XD is pretty new. So are a lot of these sort of prototyping, designing apps. So not everybody is like on board with XD. Some people are still using Photoshop. That's a good question. I would love to hear what everybody's response is to that question. Because people also use Illustrator too, but whatever makes you happy. Christian Davis asks, loves the music. Who is playing, by the way, there, Francisco? Andrew Apple Pie, right? Sweet. Little Andrew Apple Pie is who's playing. So let's move on beyond that, because can you add additional content to these? You sure enough can. You sure can. You can add whatever you want to your repeat grids. Okay, but I wanted to kind of do a quick repeat grids thing. Can I do that? Let's open up Illustrator. Let's go to File, New. I could steal, by the way, since this is sure for beginners, but keep in mind you have a bunch of templates in Illustrator you can kind of copy and paste from. There's a UI icon set that you can take a look at, so I could potentially use some of these assets like this, this very complex hamburger icon. Look at how complex that was to make. I'll put that in there. It's not quite what I'm looking for. I'll just place that right up here real fast. What I technically want is a star. I'm going to draw out a star. Let's use that star. If you hold down the Shift key, you actually get a different 5-pointed star. I can copy and paste from Illustrator, from Photoshop. But pasting in that star, I can start to make a rating system. You ready for me to kind of take it up a notch, Merrick? What's up, my friend? Good to have you. By the way, I love the little avatar. Is your hair really like that, Merrick? By the way, if you hear me and don't know what I'm talking about, it might be because you're on YouTube, feel free to join me on behance.net/live. Let's check this out. Taking the star and saying, hey, you know what? Let's make this a repeat grid. Boom. Guess what? 5 stars for a place that's cool. So what's happening here? We have a repeat grid inside of a repeat grid. And I know I said this is getting started in XD and I took it a little bit more advanced, but this is really cool, right? So another thing I could do is I could actually make this element like, it could be white, for instance. I could take another one. You ready for this, Christian? Copy, paste. Put this one on top, by the way. Before I do that, let's just change the color to a gold. And I put that right here. And I'm going to have like sort of like 4, 3.5 out of 5 stars, right? That's right, Christian Davis. Repeat grid inception. We have a repeat grid here. Boom. a repeat grid here and a repeat grid here, right? Super fun to work with. All right, moving along. All right, you ready for the next thing, guys? I'm only gonna go for 9 more minutes, but let me show you a couple fantastic things. File, get UI kits. We have these different UI kits for iOS, Google, Microsoft Windows. We have something called wireframes, okay, which is a wires UI kit, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's wires, for instance. So rather than me creating that star like I did a second ago, check it out. Oh, there's a star and a bunch of other icons. And this is all under File, Get UI Kits, Wireframes. How did you do the blue behind New York? Just select the object on top, which happens just to be a rectangle, and select background blur in the properties panel. Eugenie asks about connecting to an external data source. That's good. That gets interesting. If you're connecting to that external data source, that data might change. Which, is that going to screw up your layout? I don't know. That gets a little bit more complex, because then that link can be broken and that data could change. I do want to say, Eugenie, that we actually did a sneak. It wasn't even a sneak. It could have been a sneak, which basically we were working internally, and this is like 2 years ago, on connecting, basically importing content from the web or other sources, and where you can just like drag and drop these data sets into XD. So we're working on that. So yeah. Anyways, this is the one thing I wanted to show you. File, get UI kits. There's these 4. This wireframes is kind of outside of the platform, area. But let's go beyond that, because, and I'll hopefully share this with you, but we also have right in here 5 free UI kits that we launched a couple weeks ago, and you've probably seen it on places like Design Taxi and different places. But here's 5 free UI kits for Adobe XD. So I can copy and paste this in, by the way, to the chat, but you can see Smartwatch UI kit, Sky Travel is probably what I'm going to use, Transportation, Game Console, Dashboard, really cool stuff. So I'm going to paste that right in here if you don't mind. UI kits, the bonus UI kits, just dropped that in there. So I hope you're happy that you showed up today, because you're getting these free assets. You're learning about Adobe XD. It's going to set you up for success this week in case you want to win a contest Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And you cannot make a button play Rickroll. And I'm glad. Unless you could figure out a way. If that's what you're into, sure. Sky Travel, that's what I'm opening up, just to give you this asset. But based on everything we've learned the past 45 minutes, we know how this content was put together, right? You'll start to see repeat grids, but everything's made up of basic shapes, right? And images that were imported. All pretty straightforward. And at this point, I can take, say, for instance, this piece right here. If I want to use this piece alone, I can copy it, paste it into mine right here. New York City. It's talking about New York, and here are the different, let's just do a repeat grid there. Here's the different hotels. The James, the Standard, you get the idea, right? Easy. Okay, so you're talking about, Kevin, you're talking about resizing the images, like once you paste them in. I'd have to check on the size of those. but I can paste that off to the side. Let's ungroup. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They're not going to be massively huge, but there's actually a little bit more to the map here than what is shown. But yeah. Yes, exactly. Christian says, can't wait to deconstruct these. They're so well designed. Sorry about that. I encourage you to kind of take a look at each one because they're really impressive. And the great thing is they're resources for you. They want you to use these and take advantage of them. So look at all this work that I didn't have to do that I could start dropping in different places and using where I want. So I encourage you to do that. All right, Ghana's in the house. Kava from Ghana. Good to have you here. We're also on behance.net/live, just so you know, in case you're joining us on YouTube. If this is being recorded, you can watch it later at your heart's content. But don't watch it between 9 and 3 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because we'll actually be live as well. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about linking up screens, which is something to do right now. Ready for this? We're going to keep it simple. Keeping it simple right over here. These 3 screens. Let's drop this in. Change this to New York City. Linking this content up. What do we do? Let's take these 2. We can group it. Going to prototype, selecting prototype, and name another app that will allow you to prototype and design in one environment. This Adobe XD does. So whatever I have selected, I can link to another screen. I can link this entire screen to the second screen, pointing to it, boom. What do we want it to do? Dissolve, maybe slide left. Hey, why not, right? This little icon, yes, I do need to change the color of it. It should actually be like a back arrow. But essentially, if I want to link any graphic back, it's a matter of selecting it, pointing it back, just like that, and let's have it slide right. Okay, but that's how you do it. Even if it's a repeat grid element, clicking, slide left. You know, this element down here, clicking, slide left, you get the idea. So I just linked up a couple screens. I'm going to click play. We can kind of preview this, sliding through, going back, New York City, diving into the different hotels in New York City. Okay. Beyond that, I can click Publish Prototype and allow comments. Maybe it's going to open full screen, show hotspot hints, all that good stuff. Yes, if you know Xcode, that's awesome. Eugenie, if you know Xcode, I bow to you, my friend. It's not really my area since I'm a designer. I like working in XD. But if you know Xcode and want to design and prototype in it, that's awesome. We have 1 minute, but you can see my final right here as I go through this. And guess what? There's commenting as well, where you can say, wow. This is what I say to all my work because I have low self-esteem. Job, Paul. I comment on my own work saying, hey, you did a great job there. Anyway. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Yash. Christian. Again, this is just your crash course in Adobe XD. For beginners, this was recorded, but really this is just a preview of XD. You have 3 days of XD, your chance to win and participate, and just join us in the conversation with Claude, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Michael Shays, Mark will be there. Jenny will be there at 11 a.m. as well, right after that. This is Pacific time with Danielle and Peter Del Tondo and Michael Jarrett, and then I'll be joining them on Wednesday and Thursday. But thank you, Nicholas and Yash and everyone. Let me know if you enjoyed this, if you liked this sort of crash course into like what we're doing for the week, because we don't want you to start off cold on Tuesday. Dejan, you made my day with that comment. But let us know if you appreciate this sort of 1 hour crash course, and that would help us because we're just doing things that hopefully add value to your life, really, is our goal. So Paul Trani signing off. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for joining me. See me and us, really, 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.